Welcome to the Dynamics Compass podcast, where insights from experts will help Dynamics partners and users navigate their way through the rapidly evolving ecosystem. Today, we're joined by Jukka. Jukka is a well-known Power Platform advisor and enthusiast in the industry. Having started his career in marketing, he found himself working with CRM systems, became a Dynamics CRM consultant in the early 2000s, working with the users for many years, and eventually ended up on the IT side, giving him great understanding of what the drivers and obstacles are on both sides. He runs a newsletter called Perspectives on Power Platform, where he shares his insights and tips on how to get the most out of the platform. He was awarded the Microsoft MVP 11 times for his expertise and contribution to the community. And those who have read his blog will know he's not afraid to point out the good, the bad, and the ugly of Microsoft. Thanks for joining today, Jukka.
Thanks a lot for having me, Rory.
Yeah, you and I have had a chat earlier. I've spoken to a number of people. Copilot is a very exciting topic for a lot of people, but a lot of users still seem to have a lot of questions around the decision making. Either should they go with it, or once they've chosen it, how does it really work? So today we're going to touch on a few of those topics that seem to have been brought up by a lot of end users. So today we'll be talking about licensing and the user adoption. So yeah, we'll kick off with the first question just to get the confusion out of the way. It says there's one Copilot. There's Microsoft 365 Copilot versus Copilot for Dynamics. There's Copilot for Sales. There's Copilot in Sales. How to make sense of this, Jukka?
So it's a classic way of Microsoft using a single name or brand to describe many different things that are combined from different pieces, and which you have to also then purchase in multiple ways. So to start with, so the majority of people probably are familiar with the Microsoft or Copilot for Microsoft 365, and that is the kind of the mainstream product that has been promoted heavily during the last months, and which has become available to purchase for $30 per user per month. But then, so think about the Dynamics side. So there are mentions of Copilot for Dynamics 365, but there is actually no such product. So you cannot buy a license like that. And this is where we now get to the sort of what is the formula behind naming these different products. So the Copilot for something, those are the products which have an actual license, a SKU that you can purchase. And then the Copilots in, they are more about Copilot functionality that then lights up inside your applications, either through an existing license you already have. Let's say Dynamics 365 Sales, there are already Copilot features in there for everybody. But then also the other way around. So if we are in the Office world and we purchase the Copilot for Microsoft 365, then there will be Copilots in Outlook, Copilots in Word. So those are the features that are built within the products then. But if it's Copilot for, then you need to pay more. So that's the kind of the rule of thumb that I came up with when trying to remember that which way around is it. So Copilot for is always, for the time being, it's the those are the products that you can then acquire a license for.
Okay, that's a good rule of thumb. So that kind of answered the next question that I had already, but maybe there's some extra comments you can make on that. So with Dynamics customers that have the Dynamics product, you're coming from a CRM background, so let's go with Dynamics CE, 365 CE. Mm-hmm. Where is Copilot included in the Dynamics license, and where isn't it? And you have to get it extra.
Yeah, so as we kind of know, there's these days, every product that is actively developed by Microsoft's product teams, there is Copilot features somewhere. So you can expect to then see them light up in basically every, let's say, focus area products of their product portfolios, also covering Dynamics 365. So one of the kind of first places where these Copilot features started to light up was on the sales side. But the funny thing is that these were actually it was set in motion before the brand was really even invented. So what started out as Viva Sales initially, then gradually towards the probably end of last year, it was rebranded to Sales Copilot. But then as we finally got that new sort of naming rule for across all the Microsoft products, now it is Copilot for Sales. That is the full suite of features that you can get within the sales context. So if you are using Dynamics 365 for sales functionality for your sales personnel, then that's what you kind of are aiming to have. The Copilot for Sales will give you everything. But the fun thing is that, I mean, even if you just have Dynamics 365 Sales Enterprise, so I think the current price is $95 still. There's some upward pressure for it, and there's going to be changes, but that's kind of like the most common license to have there. So you do get the Copilot in Dynamics 365 Sales features there, and you can use those Outlook tracking capabilities and some of the kind of lightweight assistance there in the Sales Enterprise already. If you have Sales Premium, then you get more of those Copilot features already bundled in there. But if you really want to have like the full suite, everything that Microsoft can give you for the sales scenario, then you really need the Copilot for Sales license. So there are then step-up licenses that you can then purchase. If you have the Sales Enterprise license, then there's, was it 20 or something dollars per month that you can then pay to actually get to that level. And even if you're on premium, then actually because of the some of those Copilot capabilities are part of the modern work feature set, so the office world, all the Microsoft Graph and all that. So that you still kind of need to have also that side if you want to have like the entire tech that you get with Copilot for Sales. So there's multiple different like kind of layers that you can build on top of it. Especially in the sales side, it is very complex due to the fact that there are many different SKUs that you can purchase.
Okay. So the bigger the plan, the more that is included. But even if you have a smaller plan, you can always pay extra to add more Copilot features.
Yeah, exactly. And then you kind of have to have also the mainstream product, the Copilot for M365 also there. Either you acquire it by the separate Copilot for Sales product, or you then kind of attach that to your Sales Premium, and then you get the full suite. And one thing to also then keep in mind here is that those Copilot for X products, they are not just for Dynamics customers. You can also use Copilot for Sales if you have Salesforce. So that is kind of the big play there, how Microsoft then wants to also capture new market from those customers who have chosen a different CRM platform for their sales needs.
Yeah.
And that also plays out in the service side. So there's Copilot for Service, which follows a similar pattern. But the difference there is that there's only the sort of the enterprise level customer service. Well, there's the pro version, but there's no premium level like there's on the sales side. So in order to then get from the Dynamics or Copilot in Dynamics 365 customer service enterprise to the full Copilot for Service, then you need to again get the add-on licenses there. Or if you come from, let's say, Zendesk or ServiceNow, then you can just buy the Copilot for Service and then sort of get the features light up in Outlook and Teams and all the other places where this sort of the information work, sort of AI features are then useful and targeted for these kind of process personas.
Yeah, that's actually very smart how that then gives a lot more opportunity for Microsoft to also go outside the Dynamics customers, like customers that aren't Dynamics customers, and still have them adopt Copilot. So also to clarify then, if a customer has the full suite, the full Dynamics suite, so they work with CE, they've got F&O as well, but they get is it just one Copilot they can get and it works for all their solutions? Or how does that work?
Well, so there is no single technology for Copilot. So it's something that today is included within all the applications. And it kind of makes sense because unlike with, let's say, ChatGPT, there's not just like one universal place where all the work takes place in their world. Microsoft has plenty of applications and people use many tools from them. So it kind of makes sense today that, let's say, the Copilot in Word doesn't do everything that Copilot in PowerPoint or Copilot in Dynamics Sales does. So those are limited in the sense that depending on from which app you open the kind of the sidecar there, the term that they use for those panels for Copilot, then it's going to only work within the context of the application. So today there is not yet the kind of like master Copilot that knows everything you are doing with AI across all the applications. That's of course the kind of, we probably are going to go towards that kind of world in the future, because, well, for starters, it's kind of, at least for me personally, and with people I've talked about the kind of the user experience of those copilots, then it can be a bit confusing that why does this copilot prompt here do this and the other prompt doesn't. So you still have to like think about the products, like you have to know where are you in the world of Microsoft.
Okay, so that means if there's not one master Copilot yet, if you want Copilot for CE or for sales, but you also want it for finance, those are two separate add-ons or separate licenses that you'll have to get.
Yeah, they are independently developed, and I think the Copilot for finance is probably still in preview, because I think the sales and service are now GA level. And when things are in preview, then usually even the commercial model has not yet been then locked, so it can still change names and features and all that. Well, that happens also in the GA
Yes.
world. So there's nothing is permanent anymore in this ever evolving world of AI.
Yeah, and you'll be built for each one that you accept or adopt.
Yeah, so I mean, there are free Copilot capabilities in many of the like Dynamics and Power Platform applications, and so it's not as clear cut that you always then have to pay extra for it. Because, well, let's look at copilot.microsoft.com. So I mean, that's a consumer version that is you can use for free. Mm-hmm. There is the pro version that you can get if you don't have the Office package from your work. Then as a private user, you could then get Copilot by the pro subscription. But there's a lot you can do for free. And like with ChatGPT, then I think probably vast majority of the usage is today based on those free tools. So in a similar way, there are then Copilot, so generative AI capabilities within most of the flagship products in Microsoft that are then sort of, if you have access to Power Apps, then you can use the Copilot there in the Power Apps Maker Studio to help you build apps or Power Automate flows, so they don't cost extra to you.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for clarifying those things. Moving on to the user adoption, I wanted to look at it from the two lenses. One lens from management that is keen to get their team to use Copilot, but also from the user's view. We'll start with the management view. What are the biggest adoption obstacles that organizations face?
I think in general, one of the biggest sort of roadblocks today with generative AI is that we are today, or many people, many organizations are approaching it as a solution in search of a problem. So we kind of, what happened was that ChatGPT was that iPhone moment. So that kind of made everybody aware of like, okay, technology actually can do this. And from there became that sort of imperative that we have to also now kind of get with the times and start finding ways how we can inject AI into things we already do. And because of the kind of the way that especially the OpenAI's models have now been sort of commercialized via their partnership with Microsoft, they've become like available so quickly and so broadly that I don't think we're sort of like following now the playbook of the technology. We are not really like following the roadmaps of the business, how they've been identifying those scenarios where they would like to have more assistance from technology, more capabilities from AI. So it kind of happened backwards in that sense, and that to me I think is causing kind of like confusion, and of course a bit of like the inflated expectations in the market. So the fact that now, for example, Nvidia is just past Apple in market value as companies, so it tells you that these are, I mean, very strange times to be in. It's going to take probably a bit like, you need to take a breather before we can then approach it in a similar problem solving fashion as we've done with, let's say, the Dynamics type of technology in the past 10 or 20 years. And so today, I think that a challenge there is that the kind of Copilot may be seen a bit too much as a sort of a gimmick that you can then get into your tools. And so on the modern work side, there are, of course, the built-in features there. for example, for Teams meeting summarization and like drafting emails and all that, they are sort of easy, low-hanging fruit to like get to. But I don't think that they are then, is that really going to be the source of like major competitive advantage for any business? Or is it going to like create something totally new that they can do as a result of that? I don't think that's really the, that's not, that's just about getting started, getting like exposed to the very first possibilities of generative AI. But we are not really then like yet going to the level where we are actually doing it from the perspective of the unique business processes that companies have. I think we are we have an oversupply of the technology, and then we are missing a bit about the understanding and also references, experiences about where can AI work for real.
Yeah. Do you think the introduction of Copilot is requiring a lot of companies to revisit their roadmap, to pause and see if they should revisit it and add in Copilot into their roadmap after taking stock of, okay, what is out there in IT capabilities?
Well, the way I see Copilot is that it is, first of all, it's a Microsoft sort of invented and created brand like Office was. And they are very good at sort of democratizing tools and making them broadly available to everyone. It's part of their mission really to like make, first Bill Gates wanted to have a PC on every desk, and now then Satya wants to empower every individual on the planet to do more. And so those are then kind of like, that is the story of how their products become better. Yeah. But then once we will eventually get to the place where we are building custom Copilots or we are extending those tools, then that is when they start to be more kind of like relevant for the business owners and like people who are in charge of the P&L, who need to get more results with less resources, then they will probably get involved there. Today, it's so much about the IT game. So important, but not something that will be really a question that the C-suite should be, involved with in the long run. Yeah. So yeah, maybe initially, like first time when we started to get the iPhones into organizations, then yeah, maybe it was like the CIO or CTO or CEO, whoever wanted to like use the company applications and get the data on their mobile devices. And then IT had to scramble and do something so that the mobile computing in the iPhone era became possible. Yeah. I think we are like speeding through that phase now with Copilot and the sort of broad availability of those features. And thanks to the cloud, it is a lot faster to do it this time around than it was back in like 2010 when the mobile revolution on the business side started to happen. That's kind of how I see the analogy there between these stages there. But then it was still about like doing this existing stuff with your phone. You were able to like read your email on your phone or write some documents or do something that was already being done with the old tools. But then gradually we started to get those new mobile experiences and services that would have never become reality unless every customer out there had a persistent mobile connectivity with them all the time in their pockets. That's where we got the Ubers and Airbnbs and all those kind of things emerged from that. So we are probably still a bit further away from like the mainstream established businesses of like getting that kind of benefits from AI on a very, very fundamental level.
Which leads me to the next question then. From a management point of view, how do you ensure that the users will adopt and start using this new technology?
Yeah, then that is always the key question to think about with any technology, because if we think about CRM, for example, then it has a long and sad history of being something that everybody builds and sort of has to have, but everybody hates using. The end users have not really adopted it as something that helps them. So we probably should try and now learn from those mistakes with this sort of next wave of technology that is very closely kind of linked to the CRMs and that kind of business applications. And really, I think it starts from trusting the employees that they will find the scenarios that actually make their working days more efficient where this technology can help them. So I'm heavily focused on the Power Platform and low code side, where this sort of bottom up movement is the real revolution compared to the top down projects where you deploy a CRM system for your enterprise. Whereas then with the bottom up model, the domain experts themselves, they can build the applications and they can define the tools and partially build them to solve the real problems there. So starting from that direction, I think would be in today's world with also the sort of agile mindsets for projects, it should be the way to go here as well. And we should also then what management should do is make that, encourage that, and make it also visible. So get the stories from those people who are interested in really experimenting there and who want to sort of transform their own work by using generative AI. So kind of leading by example, I think, is what leads to the best outcome here.
Yeah. Can I, with that, clarify? Are you then saying have the technical people, have the people play around with Copilot Studio to create new Copilots, and then let them play around with it, be creative, and then see if the business users are going to use it as well, or should they work hand in hand with the business to still come up with a case can we develop something like this?
Well, today it seems like that if you ever try to do something which wouldn't involve both the IT and business, then you're setting up for failure already. So it's more about thinking about then which side the ownership is. You always need to then have this sort of fusion teams around it. Yeah. Especially with because AI is so much about data and processes, not so much about having a better chip somewhere. So yes, sure, you need the GPUs and you need the hardware, but that's not a problem for most business of the world. That's something that Microsoft and OpenAI and those NVIDIA will take care of that. But what do the organizations who use information technologies? So, I mean, yeah, that kind of trying to do this as an IT exercise, it is impossible. You will not succeed with that. Now we then get to this sort of governance perspective. So can we just let all the business users use Copilot Studio and build their own chatbots with AI there? So again, probably not. So we need the IT people there to then sort of build the guardrails and ensure that, because it's again all about data, and that is very sensitive things that you can both access with those tools, and they can then also spit out stuff that is very surprising. So yeah, we need the IT there to be the sort of, they cannot be the police there, but they need to own that side of the house, which is not really, because business users usually are only then going to be focused on their area and see that they don't see the entire enterprise, entire sort of data estate there. Yeah. So that's how I think the kind of combination of business IT needs to be aligned for these AI exercises.
Yeah. It sounds like management should allow the IT and the user teams some time during the week to get together and form small creative teams and sit together and have brainstorm sessions what's possible, what could we use in the business, and then bounce ideas with each other. But if management gives them that time apart from their just job, that would stir that bottom up movement instead of management saying, hey, we've got Copilot now, start using it. That's what I'm taking away from what you're saying.
Yeah, and also, I mean, one thing to keep in mind is that there's been talk about do enterprises need to build their own custom models? So what we've seen now with the sort of foundational models, the ones that come from OpenAI and Google and the others, so they are advancing so fast and they become so good without any specific training for the domains where, let's say, if you're in financials, then without any detailed access to the very detailed documents that are not publicly available. So, I mean, because it's a kind of a numbers game, because the volume of data and GPUs that has been the reason why this is happening, because we finally had enough of that to see that, okay, what happens when we throw massive amounts of compute and data into one pile, and then we got this revolution here. So we cannot now put it back there and start doing it in small scale with your own GPTs, but rather I think that it makes sense to now ensure that as many employees as possible have access to the best foundational models out there. which will be coming through the paid Copilots and all that. So that's also an area where I think the time is better spent by looking at the things that are not something that is like totally built in-house, but you should like leverage what's out there. There's so much to be gained and learned from that today.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, thanks for that, Jukka. So from the user perspective then, what skills does the user need to learn to become a master at Copilot?
I think it really comes down to the openness to experiment, because today we are at a point yet where there's probably no one out there, at least, well, the C-suite doesn't know about what's the right way to apply it, and neither does the IT. It's something that's very sort of cuts through many different disciplines in the work life. So in these early days, I think it's we need those people to like accept the fact that there's no right or wrong way to do things. So if you are expecting that your team leader would be giving you like detailed instructions on how you should be leveraging Copilot and other AI tools, then maybe it's not then, it's probably not going to, it's not going to change your work fundamentally. It will be probably just another tool that is going to be part of your toolkit. And that's probably, in a way, that's the outcome that we want to avoid. So this should not be just adding new things for you to kind of have to use as to get your job done, but rather this should ultimately be then something that takes away things that where the computer is better at doing it, and which doesn't really require the kind of manual involvement or using our sort of wetware brains to then do the processing that's better done with the CPUs. So one kind of a metaphor that I like here is that someone has called that the generative AI tools are sort of like a calculator for words. And so that kind of describes the way that it's when calculators for numbers came available, then there was probably some pushback there that, are we now going to get then employees who don't know how to count things or use numbers in the right way? Are they going to start doing the tasks related to numbers, financial stuff and all that? And in the end, to the day, we are not angry at having people use Excel at work to like calculate the numbers. So this is going to be like introducing the calculator for words, which is going to it's going to change a lot of things in information work. Probably most things are going to become different in 10 years' time as a result of these things. But we don't know yet how.
Yeah. And I don't even know if this exists, but to practice with the prompts, because you slightly change your prompt, you get a different outcome. Is there somewhere to learn best practices, or how do you know you're using the most effective prompt?
Yeah, that's a good question. The prompt engineering term started to become mainstream like 1 year ago. But again, I don't think that it's because, again, we've seen it in many tools that the AI actually is able to improve the prompt on their own. And that is kind of the funny thing how it works. So it works based on all the inputs that are given to it. And also the fact that if the model can understand it, what do I need to be able to give better outputs, then it can sort of modify the inputs there. So these kind of chains of different tools will then eventually probably make it something that you don't have to worry so much about the exact prompts or how you present things. But I do think that if you get to if you play around not with the Copilot in something, but rather the kind of the chatbots, the like ChatGPT style user interfaces, and have discussions with the AI, then you will learn a lot more from that rather than trying to figure out the magic words, because there's no right command that you can give to the AI. It's not like the command prompts or the MS-DOS days when you had to know which commands to enter. And finally, one thing to keep in mind is that even if you give the same command, the outcome can be different. It's not deterministic. You don't never know that 400% that you will get the same result. That's again something that people need to sort of switch their brains a bit and think about computers in a different way, because they are not always going to do what you tell them to do anymore.
Yeah.
Welcome to the new computers.
Yeah. With the with this whole introduction, there's this question that has come up now. Not everyone is worrying about this, but it is going through people's minds or end users' minds. Am I making myself or others redundant by creating stellar copilots?
So I think that it's very important for us to like acknowledge the fact that this will remove some tasks and potentially also then make some job descriptions completely redundant in the long run. But then again, I mean, that has already taken place before many times as technology has evolved. And usually there's always been new work that has, I mean, been invented to replace or like to keep people busy. So for instance, when I started working with CRM systems in like early 2000s, so if I had started working the work life like 10 years earlier, then it wouldn't have been a thing. There was no mainstream CRM systems to like deploy into those kind of organizations where I worked at. But it didn't happen to be, and that path led me to now these applications and local technology that is sort of, I'm not stuck doing the same thing that I did 20 years ago. Yeah. I've just kept on following like where does this, what new doors does this thing unlock now? Yeah. And if we think about, for example, what the cloud did, so back in the early days, there was a big barrier that you had to have the servers, had to have someone to like install the applications and the server software and configure the networks and like get the client application configured and keep them running and all that. And initially it used to be a big part of what CRM consultants like me did. We had to understand that. And now we couldn't care less because it's all there in the cloud. So did that remove those roles? Yes, it did. Is it for the better of everyone? Yes, it is. So in that sense, we kind of have to, it's going to be a thing that probably is now will touch people outside of IT a lot who haven't seen these kind of cycles and this kind of evolution take place that much. So that will probably have a bigger societal impact. As a result, it's going to be much broader than just what the cloud did to on-prem software. But I believe that it's never going to be a reason why this technology will then not be applied, not be taken into use. There's not going to be a need for some artisan version of like organic, let's say, summarization of text. Or, I mean, when you have the calculator for words, then yes, you kind of need to still understand like with the calculator for numbers, you need to know the numbers, you need to know the rules and how it works. But then to get faster from A to B, then it's not going to be a sin to use the calculator.
Yes, yeah, because I know this question has been asked for about a year, and initially the answer was no. It's a co-pilot. It's not the pilot. It's an assistant. But after Microsoft Build, where they introduced what do they call it, agent or co-pilot agent, or is it just agent? That will, what's the word that they use for that? Not unparalleled, but that it will work in the background and it can already make decisions and then act out and respond to certain prompts. And you're not even noticing it because you've set up that automation. But surely that will reduce workload for employees. So I guess where I'm going with this, if the workloads could be decreased for people, and I know you're not a career coach, but what would be your recommendation for people that are in this field that might worry like my task could be taken over partially by a co-pilot or agent? What could they do? Like the example you mentioned, going from on-prem to cloud, like how could they get ready and still be relevant?
Well, in the end, I mean, these are just all tools that allow us to go faster. So I think that in my scenario where I've sort of always remained as the business guy who doesn't write code, I never evolved it to becoming a programmer, even though I have built and designed fairly complex systems for specific processes within businesses in different industries. So that became possible for me. So now when we will eventually get those kind of agents that can be at least partially autonomous, then that will again allow us to build something on top of that. And it's if you really want to ensure that you will be the first to know, like, okay, where is the new opportunities opening up, then you better be interested in these things, experimenting with it. And I think also it's important to like challenge what the vendors out there are saying. So don't just like believe that what generative AI will do is what is found in the slide decks from Microsoft. We need to be also critical about this in the same way as, for example, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when there was the dot-com bubble burst. Yeah. So it's a similar kind of a hype that we now see in the inflated valuations of companies that are sort of doubling down on AI. And there will be some kind of a burst of the bubble. I mean, it's only natural that it will happen. But still, many of the ideas that were sort of planted there before that dot-com bubble, they still were perfectly valid. They were just too early. So picking from those, I mean, seeing that when do those things then, when are they hype? But then what is sort of the kind of the train there that moves along and like will eventually get you to that sort of destination that is presented in those keynote visions in big events like Build. So, for example, agents are not something that you can use today. And I don't think anyone at Microsoft even knows that, okay, what will they be in 1 year's time? So it is this kind of uncertainty is in a way, it makes it difficult or more difficult to like keep up with what's really happening in the tech there, but also because we also have, as individuals, we have access to so much AI today that we can also leverage for ourselves. We can use it to kind of decipher through all the stuff that they see there and use it as our own coach. So the Copilots and ChatGPT are great coaches for you. So if you want to like figure out what to do with your career, then ask the Copilot. It's, for example, when I now started working for my own after being a company founder, so now I don't have colleagues here in the room, but I do chat a lot with the AIs. And it gives me confidence because I can then use like a sounding board and like, it's not just information retrieval, but it gives you new perspectives. And those kind of things, I mean, what's the impact gonna be? I mean, if you can have the virtual co-founders with you, I mean, how far and how fast can you then go on your own? So that should be an exciting opportunity if you are in a position where you want to like go further in your career and like build greater things. Then it's the best time ever to be doing that.
That's actually very inspiring. Thanks for that, Jukka. For those that have been watching this, I don't know if they've noticed, but if you would have read any of Jukka's blogs, you know that he's got a lot of in-depth knowledge, and he was probably restraining himself with giving answers to these questions. There's a lot more knowledge there. Feel free to reach out to Jukka if any of these topics are close to you or you want to find out more about. I recommend you read his or you sign up to his blog as well. Perspectives.plus is the website. I'll put it in the notes as well. But Jukka, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and it does sound like there'll be a follow up one day. So we're definitely staying in touch. Thanks.
It's not the end of AI revolution yet.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much,
Jukka. Me, Rory.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode on the Dynamics Compass podcast. We decided to launch this podcast after having spoken to a lot of people in the community who seem to be looking for answers to the same questions. So then why don't we find experts in the market that have the answers, interview them, and then release that information for free to help everyone progress their Microsoft Dynamics journey. So we hope that you found this video very informative and helpful for you to continue your journey and keep moving forward. If you would like to hear about any other topics, please write to me on LinkedIn, email me, rory@thegoodtalent.co, and we'd be happy to have a look. We'll look for the experts that have the answers. We'll interview them, and it will be freely available to you. Again, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for your support as well, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.